Hey, Pittsburgh. We have had so much fun with Yins this year at Bike Pittsburgh's big free summer block parties. You know I'm talking about Open Streets PGH, and there's one more chance to explore the town free from car traffic. It's Saturday, July 27th, and it's their final shindig. They've got a brand new route through East Liberty, Homewood, Larimer, Point Breeze, even Wilkinsburg. So get ready to walk, bike, dance, even roll, plus catch performances and maybe chat up your favorite CityCast Pittsburgh podcasters. That's July 27th with Bike Pittsburgh. Route map and details at openstreetspgh.org. Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, it is peak real estate season right now. So if you've been spending your summer looking for a home or even just daydreaming about a future house hunt, we have got some tips for you. We're revisiting a conversation with one of our favorite brokers, Jessica Baker, about which pockets of the city are still somewhat affordable and which red flags to look out for. Plus, we're playing a little game with some of the most absurd listings we could find on Pittsburgh Zillow. It's Wednesday, July 10th. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. Jessica Baker is a real estate broker here in Pittsburgh. I don't actually know what a broker is. What is that?
Hi, I'm so honored to be here. And yeah, so a broker is basically you take, I believe it's 70 more hours of class, like on top of your real estate agent, your salesperson licensing. And then you have to have completed so many transactions over a certain period of time. And you have to submit those. So
a broker is like a higher level.
Yes, exactly. And so if I wanted to open up my own shop and be Jessica Baker Realty, I could, but I love where I'm at. I'm at Achieve Realty, and it's great.
Well, congratulations for leveling up.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that changed since last time we talked.
Yeah, I feel like springtime is when I personally always start to see listings begin to pop in the area. I don't know if that's like a common thing.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you think this year is comparing to others so far?
It's a very interesting year. So, at the end of last year, we really weren't sure what was going to happen because
I know the interest rates started going absolutely nuts.
Insane, absolutely insane. And so, yeah, it was really hard because I think a lot of people just gave up and said, forget it, we're going to renew our lease. A lot of, we have a lot of students or we have a lot of, people that have come out of college and then stayed here. And so a lot of our market is based on lease renewals, right? So, you figure you're a first-time home buyer. Well, you've been renting somewhere before that.
Yeah.
And a lot of our lease renewals go with the school calendar. So in June is when a lot of people May, if you're Pitt, whatever. So a lot of that, people start thinking backwards from when their lease is up. So I get a lot of people that are like, my lease is up in 3 months. We have to figure somewhere else out to go, So I think I had a lot of people last year with the interest rates that they were like, forget this, we're not going to move. We're just going to stay put. We're going to wait for the interest rates to come down. And then I think everybody sort of got through the winter and figured out that maybe wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And decided forget it. Let's just go. It's time. I'm sick of being here. So,
but it's tough because the housing market is also so much more expensive than it was even 5 years ago.
Yes.
I know Pittsburgh is still theoretically the most affordable, but it does not feel that way sometimes.
No, it really doesn't. And, it's hard because I'll have clients that are looking in the $200,000 and under range, and it's slim pickings. And, sometimes you see houses in that range and you're like, this isn't even livable, So, It's really hard. It's gotten a lot more difficult. And I think what we've seen already this year, going into April is that it's starting to look a little bit like 2020 with the bidding wars and everything selling within a weekend. And not everywhere. I don't want there to be that one seller out there that's like, well, why hasn't my place sold?
Yeah.
But for the most part, I've been telling everybody, there are really hot areas in the city where things are just going crazy and, we're up in bidding wars again and you can say, we'll put it on and we'll have an open house and it'll be gone by Monday or Tuesday.
What is reasonable then? What can you get in the city? And I know it varies by neighborhood, but what can you get for $200,000?
For $200,000, let's say $250,000. Okay. So $250,000 because I just had one that this happened. So it was listed for $225,000. It was a really cute flip, a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, and they had done a nice job. Some flips we are wary of, but this was actually a good one. It was done well.
I've seen some really sketchy ones, like painted countertops with like just regular ceiling paint. It's weird out there.
Right? Yeah. You have to look. You have to look a little bit closer when you see the, I don't know if I can say this on the pod, but we call them the meathead flips because it's like whoever just went into Home Depot and picked whatever glass mosaic tile they had on sale and made no design choices whatsoever. They just picked like the easy way out. So anytime you see, I know, gray's getting a bad rap, and I have gray in my house, but gray everywhere is sort of like a telltale, this was a quick jobby. So not that that's always bad. Some people are just trying to be neutral. But when we walked in, to those types of houses, we look a little closer. But anyway, I'm getting off point. So $250, I would say, because I just had clients in, for example, it was listed for $225 in Bellevue, and they were up against 7 offers, and we got it for $255. But it's a really cute redone house. It's got an eat-in kitchen. It's got an extra little office room on the first floor, like very nice tile in the bathroom, and a nice like a teak countertop for the sink, like very nice, tasteful, good upgrades with a nice backyard, no off-street parking, no garage, that's extra. But that's, you can get some good houses out there for the $250 range.
But Bellevue is outside the city.
Well, that's true. It's right next to it. So
it is close. Close. I love Bellevue. But
this is not CityCast Bellevue.
Can you find something good for $250 inside the city?
Yes, you can. I mean, I think, obviously people tell me they have a budget of $250 and they want to be in Highland Park, Squirrel Hill, Shady Side.
That's tough.
Right. No, that's not that. You're going to get a shell of a house for that, but there are definitely areas that, you can find, like Brookline, Beachview, if you wanted to go more south, there is stuff in the West End, believe it or not. There are things in Northside. There are some things in Brighton Heights, which is city. There are things in Observatory Hill. There are lots of different sort of little pockets. It's maybe, I always tell people who are moving from out of town to I literally pull up that, oh my, I wish I knew the name of the artist who did the neighborhood map. And it's I know there are a couple out there. And it's like the neighborhoods are written in the shape of the neighborhood.
I haven't seen that. That's cool.
Oh, yeah. It's really great. And so I'll be like, this is helpful to kind of get a sense of where you're looking at and where you're going. And so maybe, look off the beaten path on some of these.
As you're having these conversations, are there types of houses maybe that are easier to sell people on?
So it's really interesting because I think everybody has their own distinct style and what they kind of envision themselves in. It's not hard, but what happens is I'll get a husband and wife, and he really loves mid-century modern and she wants new construction, right? And so it's that's what I'll say, we'll go out and look at houses and they can't agree, and I'll say, okay, go home and you need to open a bottle of wine and you need to make a list of your must-haves and the things you can compromise on.
There's a fair amount of counseling involved in this.
There is, yeah.
Are there any places or spaces that you maybe advise people against?
So one thing that I always explain to people, especially people who are not from here, is I say you have to keep in mind that Pittsburgh, you are always either on the high side or the low side of the street. And if you look...
You mean with the hills?
Yes. If you look out your window where you are at your house, you're going to figure out which side you're on, right? So you either have a lot of steps or you have very few steps or no steps, or you're either even lower than the street level. Mm-hmm. And it's really true. It's so funny. And it's just the way we're built. We're built on hills. And so, sometimes it's very extreme. There's 25 or 30 steps to get up to your house.
But maybe you get an amazing view for the trouble.
Potentially. But
not always.
Not always. We're blocked by hills as well. But so why I tell people that is, people will see, we have drones for real estate photos for a reason, right? They get right up in front of the house and they take the picture and you see 1 or 2 steps and then you drive by and there's 50 and you're like, there's the only way in. I can't come in from the back. I'm going to have to bring my kid, my groceries and everything.
Yeah, I've toured several houses like that. And I say toured, I drove up to them and I was like, oh, I cannot carry 15 bags of groceries up these 72 steps.
Exactly. So that's one thing I always tell people and some people come from New York and they're used to a 5-story walk up and they're like, this is nothing. This is great. And, not that there's anything wrong with that, but just you got to know what you're getting into. So I always say, look at that, keep that in mind.
Want to know one of my favorite sounds? Here it is. That's the sound I hear when I'm learning Spanish with Babbel. And if you want to learn a new language this year, I guarantee it'll be one of your favorite sounds too. I'm David Plotz. I'm the CEO of CityCast, and I've been doing Babbel for a few weeks, and it's been so much fun. This week, I've been learning lots of food vocabulary and how to order in a restaurant. This is one of the things I love about Babbel, is that it's about learning the language so that you can use it. As Babbel says, it's designed by real people for real conversation. So it's all based on real life situations. And these restaurant lessons are awesome. When I went to Mexico City last year with my girlfriend, I was mute. I was a mute. But next time, I'm going to be ordering the sopes and las salsas picantes. Babbel has over 16 million subscriptions sold, plus all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee. Here's a special limited-time deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by La Quinta by Wyndham. Your work can take you all over the place, like Texas. You've never been, but it's going to be great because you're staying at La Quinta by Wyndham. Their free Bright Side breakfast will give you energy for the day ahead. And after, you can unwind using their free high-speed Wi-Fi. Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you shine. Book your stay today at lq.com.
Do you find it's easier when folks have non-negotiables, like things that they're just like, hardline, I need this, or I don't want that?
No.
That does not help.
No. Well, and here's the thing. When I talk to people, the first thing I do is I usually set up a search on the MLS, which is where all of our listings are.
You were just explaining this to me off mic. It's like the master database. I didn't know there was one master list to rule it all.
It's not Zillow. Zillow steals it from the multi-list.
I mean, that makes sense, but still.
But, right, yeah, who would know?
Hilarious that there is like one spot and all these different companies are just using the same thing.
Exactly, and it's by region. So ours is the West Penn multi-list. And there are like 8,000 agents that are subscribers to the West Penn multi-list. We're Western Pennsylvania. And then Philadelphia has their own multi-list. It's very interesting. So like I am licensed in the state of PA. I could sell you a house in Philly, but I couldn't get on their multi-list unless I started subscribing
to that one too.
Right, exactly.
Of course, it's always about money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love the look behind the curtain though.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so when I meet with clients and, the first thing I do is I set up a search on the MLS. I try to keep it really narrow because if you get too specific, you're going to get like two houses. So I think that, that's important to, I have certain things that I'll say, how many bedrooms are a must? How many bathrooms are a must? Okay, do you have to have 2 full bathrooms or could you have 1.5? Mm-hmm. Right? I try to shape it that way because if you put too many constraints on it, you're really not going to have any houses to look at. And so sometimes I'll say to people, well, would you be okay if the house was perfect, but it didn't have a garage? And generally people will say yes, but sometimes people are like, no, we have to have a garage. I'm like, okay, done deal. We can't, without a garage. And there are some things I can search for and some things I can't. So people are like, it has to have a flat yard. I'm like, one, we're in Pittsburgh.
God, I wish Zillow had that as a applicable thing.
I know. But then you get into what realtors classify as flat or not and yard, right? They'd be like a 5x10 little square and they'd be like, flat yard, And I'm like, postage stamp. But anyway, so yeah, I think that my advice is to try not to limit yourself. Like if you can be open, try to be open because, you might have room to build a garage or add a powder room. Like I've had clients who turned a coat closet that was unnecessary into a powder room, right? You can generally kind of make it work.
Well, you talking about the size of the yard and being creative about those descriptions. I feel like realtors in particular are very good creative writers. The way y'all as an industry tend to talk about specific amenities.
We are.
I kind of want to put you to the test if you're game.
Okay.
We went through and just found some silly active listings from different parts of the city. I'm going to show you some pictures of some special features in some houses around here. And you tell me how you might describe them to a potential buyer.
Okay.
Or describe it on behalf of the seller.
Yes, on behalf of the seller.
Yes.
Potential buyer, we're being a lot more real. If we're doing this for the benefit of the seller, if I represent the seller here, we're trying real hard to be very nice about everything.
And to be clear, I know that the real answer is that you would just not talk about it. You would emphasize the other more positive aspects.
Absolutely. We're just not going to have a picture of that.
But
okay?
I'm still curious how you might think about it. Okay, here we go. Okay, so to look at this one, nice and cute.
Mm-hmm. So it's got things that make me crazy, like drop ceilings, and that drives me insane. I think, wow, this one in the kitchen is really intense. It's a lot going on there.
The whole house is black, white, and gray. There's like a couple pops of color, but they're all in like sort of strange places. Like the sink bowl is a bright color.
I think I would say something about like your, black and white oasis, completely turnkey, lots of modern features. Bring your pops of color to complete this amazing space.
That's very good.
Yeah, I think because it's all white, blank canvas, blank canvas, ready for your artistic touch and a little bit of elbow grease. Yeah.
I like it. That's good. Okay, well, here's another one.
Oh, I hope you get me some weird stuff. I'm excited.
Okay, so this is a lovely house, truly beautiful, but it has this one bathroom that's a little bit different. Will you tell me what you see in that picture?
Wow. Wet room, I would say. The toilet's in the shower.
The toilet is fully in the shower.
The toilet's in the shower, so if you miss, don't worry. There's a floor drain right next to you. I would say, I'm assuming maybe in the basement, I hope?
It doesn't specify.
Wow, it really doesn't. I would say great for washing your dog. Right here. Perfect place to, I mean, it's funny because like you can't, there are certain things you can't say, right? You can't say like kids and families, right? Mm-hmm. You can't talk about like perfect for families. But like if I could, I would be like perfect place to throw the kids after a muddy day at the playground and hose them down. But that, we can't put that. So
great for potty training.
Yes, exactly. Great for potty training. Oh, that's good. I think I'm going to hire you.
Okay. Here's another.
I think you got to go with this one. You got to say lovely stained glass. It's truly beautiful.
It is. It's just, it's a big stairwell. There's a gorgeous, enormous stained glass window next to one of the landing points. But the other landing point has a different sort of window.
It's got a little pop in.
Mm-hmm, that looks into a bedroom, a sitting room. Hard to say.
Yeah. Just, a little peep in there and say, hey, what you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Just passing by. We generally see these between the kitchen and the dining room. I think, you could say convenient drive-up window in your second floor. So, have your own indoor ice cream stand. I mean, I think, I feel like I would have said to them, let's drywall over this. Or maybe hang a picture in front of it. Or maybe not have it open. Let's just close this for the pictures. And then, we can deal with it when people come see it. Put a Post-it note and say, seller will be willing to close this up before closing.
Oh, you'd go that far.
I feel like I might. It's, if people are really weird about it, because it's not in a normal place.
It's not.
And you feel like if this is your bedroom, you have no privacy.
I know.
Right?
Can you imagine if you have like, a preteen or something and they just like pop it in to say hello?
They're like, I'm shutting my window now. Closing these shutters.
When you look at pictures like this, or you imagine how to like advise clients to have photos taken, like what are your best suggestions?
So it's a great question because we're in like prime listing season right now. So I always tell people my first thing is hide all your personal photos. And that's, like being
personal photos or personal everything?
No, personal photos. Personal everything is okay. Personal photos because, and people are like, oh yeah, that. And the reason why I don't think people really understand, it's because we are a nation of nebs and we all want to look at who lives in this house. And so I will have people that I'll be touring, I'll take buyers through and they'll be like, hey, this guy looks familiar. I feel like I went to college with him, or like maybe he was in my brother's program at CMU. You know what I mean? I'll be like, we're not buying the people. Like, let's move on. So that's why I always tell sellers, hide them. Because people just want to look and see, oh, he went to Northwestern or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's number one. Number two is I like whenever people have their stuff in there. I would much prefer to sell a house with stuff in it than an empty house.
Okay.
But I think, one thing is I always tell people, yes, we want it to look like you live here, but you don't live here, right?
Someone lives here.
Yeah, someone lives here, but we want to take like everything should be off of your refrigerator. And they're like, we left just these two things up. I'm like, nope, everything gone. Clear refrigerator. No bread on top of the refrigerator. Clear, I always try to get people to clear off their countertops for the most part. Okay, you have your air fryer, you have your Instapot, you have your Ninja, let's put some of this away, even if it's in the basement, because you want it to look more open. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of generally say like declutter in general. And I always tell people you're going to have to pack this anyway when you move. So we can start now by putting some of these non-essential things away. But we want to leave, like decor items I think are generally okay. It depends. You know, I mean, sometimes
You don't need live, laugh, love on every wall.
No, and that brings me to my next point. Word art. I have a big thing against word art, and I'm sorry, I know it's so popular right now, but here is why. People, we are trained to read, and when you flip through pictures, you will read the word art and move to the next picture and not see the room.
Oh.
And I do it, and all the time, and I'm always like, oh, love. Oh, laundry here, right? And I'm like, I don't even know what the room looked like, but I read it, and I was moving at such a pace, right? So I'm very against word art in real estate pictures. If you want to have it in your house, that's great. But when you go sell your house, I say, hide that away.
So keep it tidy, but keep it lived in.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's finding that direct balance. And then, you know, what happens is before pictures, I give my sellers, you know, okay, here are your marching orders, do da, 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 da. And then I go before pictures and then I, you know, fluff the pillows and like shove the stuff under the beds and put the stuff in the closets that shouldn't be there. And I kind of pare everything down to get it just right.
How much time does it usually take you to do that?
Depends on the house, but generally like an hour. I can zip through in an hour. And then if I'm still going and the photographer's there, I'm like, don't take a picture of that pile. That pile is not in the picture. There's always a pile that follows behind the photographer that's not in the pictures, you know?
How much time did it take you to get ready for this today?
Not that long, actually.
Good.
I was like, should I say? I mean, like my kids were up late and I went to bed at like midnight. So after my husband went to work, I was like, I'm taking an hour nap. So yeah.
That's how we want people to prep for this.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not going to stress about this. It's going to be great. I need my sleep. So.
Jessica Baker is a Pittsburgh real estate broker here in Pittsburgh. You can find her on social. We will link it all in the show notes. Thank you again so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. This has been such a blast.
That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. If you'd like to hear more from Jessica, including whether a Pittsburgh potty should count as a half bath, then please check out our last conversation with her. It was last summer. Gosh, time is flying. We will drop a link to that in our show notes. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Talk to you soon.
So if I have an empty house, like I'll have it virtually staged just because it makes such a difference.
It took me so long to realize when I was buying for myself that some of that stuff was digital. The Photoshop skills that realtors have access to are really incredible.
It's really good. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
Like you really have to zoom in there and then I'm like, wait, that lighting is not natural. How did they do that?
Yeah. And then what's funny to me is whenever agents will put the virtually staged picture and then they'll put the empty picture and I'm like, Don't do that. You just worked so hard on this virtually staged picture.
Do you ever feel like you just let yourself go a little too overboard and you just like Barbie Dreamhouse it?
Yeah. You know, sometimes I say we need to dial it back. But for the most part, they pretty much are, you know, they know just the right amount of stuff. Well, now I'll look at stuff that's like actually staged, but I'm like, this looks too good. Is this virtual? You know, and I'll be like zooming in. There is a thing on the multi-list that says, are these images virtually staged or not?
Oh, so they're supposed to declare it.
Yes, they say yes or no.
The declarations on whether a photo has been retouched getting really interesting.
Oh, no kidding, right?